Okay, this is part 3, so if you haven't watched 1 or 2, I should recommend go watching those because it explains everything that's gonna happen in this one. So yeah, let's get on. Your eyes peeled open painfully, burning as you whipped your head back and forth, taking in a sense that you had believingly you were still asleep, trapped in another nightmare. At any moment your mother would shake you awake, scolding you for falling asleep and maybe even snoring with a light slap inside the head, upside the head, and would turn it into another story that she told your friends at Mahjong. But the screams were too piercing, the floor vibrating as people ran back and forth, looking for a way out of the building, only to be stopped by beasts of nightmare. Yokai of all kind, shapes and sizes, guarded the doors, stopping many who tried to escape with their weapons or bare hands, not even flinching as they fell one after another. While they stand guard, others worked their way through the crowd, leaving chaos in their wake as they follow the example of their compositions. Theirs is different, however more metaphysical and less opportunistic, as if they're looking at the people they killed. Above them, flames licked their way across the ceiling, smoke filling the room with its presence. At the purple blaze claims the wood. A small spark from the ceiling, rolling mass catching on the shoulders of the man next to you and leaving you to watch in horror as he's instantly incredible. I think that's how you say it. Nothing left to him but ash and screams, nothing of which are desperate to the air current kicked up by the others running about. Whipping around, you search for your parents in the sea of people, praying that you won't see them, staring up from the piles of bodies littering the room. But they're gone, and you can only hope that they manage to escape somehow. It was your turn to do the same, and much to you wanted to look more for them. You knew that there would be no point if you died as well. So crawling along the floor and trying to stay out of the path of the others running around, you made your way to the back of the room. Everyone had been focused on getting out earlier, and so the yokai been focused on the exits of the building. But when you had first entered the building, you had noticed a small hallway tucked away in the back corner, nearly covered by large tapestry hanging from the wall. Your mother had explained that it was used back in the old days to allow the caretakers to get about without disturbing the visitors and the priest. Now, it would help you exit in the gaze of the new spiritual beings. Slipping behind the heavy fabric, you tried to surpass the coughing fit that tried to escape you. The smoke was back here as well, as small areas where the fire had already spread, hanging thick in the air. But here were no yokai or other people. If you had to take your chance with one or another, you would choose fire over those monsters any day. Stumbling back into the being further, you look for a way out, another back exit or a window big enough that you could squeeze your way through. You found is empty rooms and dead ends as you continue to stumble through the halls, pulling up the hem of your kimono as you try to keep from tripping. It doesn't help that the flames have begun to grow stronger even back there, almost as if they're chasing you, cornering you until you're left with nowhere to go, backed into a corner. There's nowhere to go this time. The door to your right refuses to budge, as if it's glued shut. And now matter how hard you pounded on the wood of the hall behind you, all it does is bruise your skin and give you splinters. You even try clawing your way out, nails ripping as you desperately try to escape from the approaching flames. But as time passes, your body becomes more and more weak. The adrenaline from earlier wearing off, and the pain of your injuries finally hitting you as the smoke thickens. This can't be it. I just got back. Sliding down the hall, all you can do is accept your fate. You're sore, bruised, and tired. Hell, you were tired. Look at the bright side, you thought to yourself, curling up in now ruined clothes. At least you'll die in your own world. The smoke had gotten worse now, to the point that you could almost call it fog. If you were lucky enough, though your track record spoke otherwise, it would kill you before the flames did. It seems the gods like to pull tricks on you, because at your last moments, they decide to taunt you in the worst ways. Little mouse, look what you've gotten yourself into. Did you really think you could run from me? You only burrowed down further, clasping your ears to get rid of the voice in your head. You refused to have your last thoughts be of that monster. You prayed to whatever god watching over this shrine that you would just die already, be spared this torment. But the voice from before, only torrent, a sound you had long ago assorted with mistakes that led to slap on the wrist or swat upside the head. He won't help you. He's the reason I was able to come here after all. Poor thing owed me a debt, and quite a heavy one at that. When he saw you enter his temple, well, he just couldn't help but come running to tell me he found my lost pet. Footsteps, calm and light, padded across the floor, stopping in short of your form, which you refused to emerge from underneath your arms. A toe nudged your side, none too gentle, yet you refused to even entertain the thought he was there. Maybe if he thought you were already dead, he could leave your corpse for the flames to consume, just as with the others in the main room. There was a pause before sighing, and then you were being picked up away from the cold wood floor and onto the burning air. It was only now you moved, trying to push away from the man who held you within what little strength you had left. But even if you had been in top conditions, there was no way you could have overpowered him. His grip was like that of a vine, cold and stiff, as if painful in response. He had never been the one to pull his punches before, so why now be any different? Stop. It is nothing more than a whisper, hoarse throat, and scratching like nails with each syllable. Why should I? You think you can take care of yourself? You can't even lift your head. His voice sparked a flare of defiance in you, voice grating at your nerves with its concealing tone. And so you did as he said. You couldn't, lifting your head and prying your own eyes open. It was every one of your intentions to glare, spit, scream at him, but the moment you saw the man before you, every compared thought you felt in your mind, a slight that would, however, be trained in your mind and haunt you for eons to come. Shizaki stood, you curled in his arms. Purple flames danced around him as he stared down at your form, casting a dark shadow over his face. It only made what you could see much more terrifying. His eyes, normally glow yellow, had turned completely red, the same color as the blood that splattered the fabric on his clothes. Still fresh and warm from his slaughters, it swallowed everything, even the whites of his eyes, and made the abyss of black reflect in the slits of his pupils stand out among everything. But what was truly terrifying was the emotion reflected in them. You had seen competent boredom and even anger, but never had you seen this. They burned with a mix of fury and delight, the kind of sick sense of glare one might see on the face of someone who tortured tortured people for a living. Upon his lips was a smile, one that promised nothing but horrors to come. It was this that prompted you to struggle, trying to break free from his hold, but you would have better chances trying to punch through the brick wall, and he simply collected your wrists in a single one of his hands, leaning closer as he spoke. Sleep. His voice was like a hiss of a snake, slithering into your ear and wrapping around your brain, squeezing until your vision grew dark and body fell limp, and the last thing you saw were two dark shadows emerging from Chizaki's back as the flames swirled above, gathering in a simple spot on the ceiling. As you come to, the first thing you became aware of was the sound of a brush on paper, the scratching sound of each stroke hoarsened the headache that was already settling in. It was a way of waking you, and because it became all too familiar with haven't had an experience in months, since you pray that it's just another one of those nightmares. But you knew better. The floor is too hard. The blanket covering you is too soft. The breeze from the open window tickled your skin, blowing strands of your hair across your face and making you twitch. Your body protests in pain as you tried to move, settling for opening your eyes to avoid the pain accompanied every small movement. Chizaki is sitting at his desk, as he always did at night, working away on paper in front of him. His eyes quickly skimmed the paper before picking up the brush to write something on the bottom before moving on to the next. You watched him for every movement. You're able to convince yourself that you had come up with everything. It brings some illusion to escape this nightmare. Yet you knew better. You know better. Punishment awaits, maybe even death if he decides to make an example of you. In the midst of your thinking, Chizaki stands, moving towards the bookshelf as you quickly shut your eyes once again, trying to keep up the facade of sleeping. He shuffles around for a bit, browsing his collection before selecting one and walking back, this time taking a spot right at the end of where you lay, his knees in a cushioned place there, simply staring at your form in silence. I know you're awake. Get up now, or I will make this much more painful than it needs to be. For a moment, you debated on ignoring him. It's debate, by the way, on ignoring him, but quickly realized there's no point now in delaying the development. You will only make him that much more angry, and so finally, relating, you force your agonizing body to sit up, ignoring the screams of your muscles and joints as you move to kneel in front of him, refusing to look up. You instead option to stare at your hands, tracing the patterns of your skin in favor of looking at the man in front of you. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice a number of candles placed around you, their flames separating you and the man before you. Around them, painted onto the wood, was several of inscription patterns and symbols, none of them which you recognized, but still knowing they had no good. You have acted foolish in my absence. Chizaki finally speaks up, his voice just as cold as cutting as you remember. I have done nothing but provided you care for you, and allowed you to live instead of bearing you where you stand. As I would any other that dare ever have thought against me, your punishment should be that of the highest offense. Not only have you slighted me, but also the clan name. Gritting your teeth, you bite your tongue to the point you can taste blood, holding back the flood of insults that threaten to spew from your lips. One point of your mind says, screw it. You're already in the world of trouble, but the other begs you not to make things any worse for yourself, as they already are. Though you're not sure how things could get much worse. Even with the monotone voice, you know he's more pissed than you've ever seen him. But I am more merciful than others. In fact, I would say you're receiving a reward. You can't help the way your head peaks at his words. Unable to believe what you were hearing, there had to some catch to it. Chisaki was many things, but merciful was not one of them. Your gaze zeroes in his, sitting mere feet away, and you realize you should be more scared than you should be curious. He holds his hand out, letting it hover a moment before positioning it over one of the many dozens of runes around you. With his other, he produced what looks like an amulet dagger from his robe, and for a moment you allow yourself to believe that he's going to kill you. But of course, as always, he does the last thing you would expect. He pricks his finger, allowing the blood to gather into a sizable drop before his eyes flicker up to you. Just imagine the number of yokai, oni, and mortals who would give anything for what I'm bestowing upon you. At these words, he lets the drop fall onto the symbol below, which begins to glow as soon as it touches, spreading from the single point around the circle, which you can see surrounding you. Fear clenches your heart, not knowing what he's doing, despite knowing it was a bad idea. You jumped from your spot, trying to escape the floor barrier, only to be stopped by an unseen force, much like the one he had always previously used to keep you in check. Behind you, Chisaki's voice begins speaking, chanting almost, and his volume grows. So does the force, pushing you down, bringing you to your knees as you gasp for breath. You're no stranger to pain, it being the only Oni's preference form of perfection. But this was unlike anything you had ever experienced before, even worse than the shocks that you had received from the blasted collar aid made you wear. This made you think of those times almost fondly, feeling as if everything atom of your being was being ripped apart and set on fire, before being mushed back together in an unmatched order. With every chanting stops, even after his chanting stops, the pain remains, fading if at all little, and leaving you vulnerable as he approaches. All you can do is whimper, occasionally twitching as jolts of pain travel through your body. Meanwhile, he simply bends over and picks you up, saying nothing as he takes you over to his raised futon, peeling the blankets back before tucking you in. "What did you do to me?" you managed to choke out. "I gave you my blood," he hummed, moving a piece of hair from your face, an otherwise loving gesture. There are many ways for an Oni to be born, though this one is more uncommon. In fact, I had to look quite a few ancient scrolls to find the ritual that would work how I wanted it to. It took a moment for your shell-shocking brain to process what he said. He gave you his blood? Did that mean? "You're right," he said, and the recognition shine in your eyes along with the quickly welling tears. "You can now be considered one of us. With my blood flowing through you, you are linked to me, indelibly." His hands move lower, nails scratching over the decent skin of your throat before his fingers clench around it. "No one can touch you. You'll no longer age. Your immortality is linked directly to me. You can't die unless I do, and I'm the only one that can kill you. Every movement away from me will be nothing but painful for you." Tears well in your eyes, and not from the pain that jolts in your body. You could never escape him. You couldn't even die unless he said so. His hands move to wipe away the tears that now flow freely down your face before moving to join you. "Don't worry. You shall never want for anything ever again. You have been given the ultimate purpose in life, to serve me for all eternity." His arms wrap around you from behind, dragging you further back towards him and curling into your back as if nothing had changed and ignoring the way your body shivered. But don't worry, you won't get bored. I have many uses for you.